I didn't plan to text anyone that night. I definitely didn't plan to text a billionaire. All I wanted was for my baby to stop crying. It was almost midnight, the kind of hour where the world feels abandoned. The street outside my apartment was silent, the flickering hallway light outside my door buzzing like it was about to give up too. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet, my knees pulled into my chest, my daughter Lily wailing from the bedroom like her tiny heart was breaking. Because maybe it was. The formula can sat empty on the counter. I'd turned it upside down twice already, shaking it like a desperate idiot, hoping some miracle powder would fall out. Nothing. Just the hollow sound of metal reminding me how badly I'd failed tonight. I pressed my palm against my forehead and closed my eyes. Please, I whispered, not to anyone in particular. Just let her sleep. Lily was only 4 months old. She didn't understand overdraft fees or rent notices, or why the lights sometimes went out before the end of the month. All she knew was hunger, and her cry, sharp, desperate, panicked, cut straight through my chest. I checked my bank app again, even though I already knew what it would say. $12.43. My paycheck wasn't coming for another 2 days. I'd already borrowed from everyone who used to answer my calls. My ex had vanished the moment I told him I was pregnant. My parents helped when they could, but they were drowning too. Pride had already died months ago. Survival was all that was left. I picked Lily up and paced the small living room, bouncing her gently, whispering apologies she couldn't understand. I'm trying, I murmured into her hair. I promise I'm trying. Her bottle was filled with more water than formula tonight. I hated myself for that. Every parenting article screamed about what not to do, but none of them explained what you're supposed to do when there's simply nothing left. When Lily finally paused to catch her breath, I set her down in her crib and walked back to the kitchen, hands shaking as I picked up my phone. There was only one person left I could ask. My brother. I hated asking him. Not because he was cruel, but because every favor came wrapped in disappointment. Every sure carried a reminder that I was the screw-up sister, the one who got pregnant at the wrong time, with the wrong man, and the wrong amount of savings. Still, Lily cried again, louder this time. I opened my messages and started typing. Hey, I'm sorry to bother you so late. I hate asking again, but I really need help. Lily's formula is out. I just need $50. I'll pay you back on Friday, I swear. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over send. This wasn't about dignity anymore. This was about my baby. I hit send. Then I dropped the phone on the counter and leaned forward, my forehead resting against the cold surface. I didn't check the name. I didn't double-check the number. I didn't even breathe properly. Minutes passed. Lily's crying softened into hiccuping sobs, and I rocked her again, tears slipping down my own face silently. I was so tired of calculating, tired of apologizing, tired of pretending I wasn't terrified every single night. My phone buzzed. I froze. For a moment, hope flared so sharply it hurt. I grabbed the phone and looked down. I think you might have the wrong number. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. What? I stared at the message, my chest tightening. Wrong number. My fingers flew over the screen as panic set in. I checked the contact. 1 digit was off. 1. I had just poured my humiliation, my desperation, my motherhood into a text and sent it to a stranger. I'm so sorry, I typed quickly. That message wasn't meant for you. Please ignore it. I locked the phone and tossed it onto the couch like it had burned me. Great. As if tonight couldn't get worse. I picked Lily up again and sank onto the edge of my bed, pressing my cheek against hers. Her cries finally slowed, turning into weak little whimpers, and then exhausted silence. She fell asleep hungry. I sat there long after, staring at the wall, feeling the weight of everything I couldn't fix pressing down on me. Another buzz. I almost ignored it, but something, curiosity, dread, fate, made me reach for the phone. Is your baby okay? I stared at the screen. Who asks that? A stranger. Someone who should have ignored me. Someone who owed me nothing. My first instinct was to block the number, to protect myself, but my fingers didn't move. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. She'll be okay, I finally typed. I'm sorry again. The reply came faster than I expected. I can help. I laughed, a short, broken sound. Of course he could. That's what scammer said. That's what trap sounded like. Thank you, I wrote carefully. But I don't take money from strangers. A pause. Then, I'm not offering charity. And I'm not a stranger anymore. I'm Alex. I looked at Lily, sleeping against my shoulder, her tiny fist curled into my shirt. I didn't reply. But for the first time that night, my phone didn't feel quite so heavy. I told myself not to respond. That was the smart thing to do. You don't engage with strangers who offer help at midnight after you accidentally text them about money. You don't let hope make decisions for you, because hope has a way of turning into humiliation. So I placed my phone face down on the mattress and lay back beside Lily, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. Her lashes fluttered in her sleep, her lips puckering slightly like she was searching for the bottle that wasn't there. My heart ached. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The phone buzzed again. I stared at the ceiling, my jaw tight. Whatever this was, I didn't need it. I'd survived worse nights than this. I always did. Another buzz. I gave in. I don't want to scare you, the message read. But I'm still here. I swallowed. Why? I whispered to the empty room. I typed slowly, choosing every word like it mattered. Because somehow it did. You don't know me, I wrote. And I shouldn't have sent that message to you. The reply came after a pause this time, like he was thinking. I know you shouldn't have. But you did. And now I know there's a baby involved. I exhaled sharply through my nose. There it was. The part that made my chest tighten. He wasn't asking about me. He was asking about her. She's sleeping now, I typed. She'll make it through the night. And tomorrow? That question undid me. I didn't answer right away. Tomorrow was always the problem. Tomorrow was bills, calls I didn't want to make, numbers that didn't stretch far enough. Tomorrow was the part one avoided thinking about because it felt like standing too close to the edge of something dark. Tomorrow I'll figure it out, I finally wrote. 3 dots appeared on the screen. Disappeared. Then appeared again. You shouldn't have to figure it out alone. I stared at the words until my eyes burned. I am alone, I whispered, even as I typed something different. I appreciate your concern. But really I'm okay. That was a lie. But it was a practiced one. Another pause. Then what's your baby's name? I frowned at the screen. That wasn't what I expected. No pitch. No offer. Just curiosity. Lily, I replied before I could stop myself. The name felt heavy once it was out there, floating between me and a stranger whose face I'd never seen. That's a beautiful name, he wrote. How old is she? I hesitated. This was turning into a conversation. Conversations led to expectations. Expectations led to disappointment. Still, for months. She's lucky to have you. My throat tightened. You don't know that, I whispered. I didn't reply this time. I pressed my lips to Lily's forehead and closed my eyes, trying to block out the warmth spreading through my chest. Compliments from strangers meant nothing. They didn't change reality. The phone buzzed again. I know you said you don't take money from strangers, but let me be clear. I'm not asking for anything. No favors. No conversation. No explanation. I sat up slowly. I've been helped before, when I didn't deserve it, the message continued. This is me paying it forward. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I only need $50, I typed. That's it. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding, half expecting the tone to change. For him to say something smug, for the kindness to crack. Instead, the reply came simple and steady. Okay. That was it. No lecture. No negotiation. Just okay. Seconds passed. Then my phone vibrated, so hard it nearly slipped from my hand. I frowned and opened my banking app automatically, not understanding why it had opened at all. Then I saw it. Deposit received. $3,000. I stared at the number, convinced I was hallucinating. No, I breathed. No. My hand started shaking, so badly I had to set the phone down on the bed. My heart raced, fear slamming into gratitude so fast it made me dizzy. That wasn't help. That was a mistake. Or a trap. I grabbed the phone again and typed furiously. You sent too much. Way too much. I can't accept this. The reply came almost instantly. You already did. Tears blurred my vision. I can send it back, I wrote. I only asked for formula. Then by the formula, he said. And breathe. I pressed my fist to my mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. "You don't do this," I whispered. "People don't just do this." Another message appeared. "Lily doesn't need to grow up remembering nights like this." My heart stopped. I hadn't told him that part. About the nights. About the memories I was terrified of creating for her. I stared at Lily, sleeping peacefully beside me, unaware that something invisible had shifted around us. "Why are you doing this?" I typed. There was a longer pause this time. "Because I know what it's like to be hungry," he replied. "And because tonight, I could do something about it." I leaned back against the headboard, exhaustion crashing into me all at once. For the first time in months, I wasn't calculating. I wasn't apologizing. I wasn't pretending. I was just holding my baby. And somewhere out there, a stranger named Alex had stepped into my life without asking permission. I didn't know yet that he wasn't just a stranger. And I definitely didn't know how much everything was about to change. I didn't sleep after that. Even when Lily stayed quiet, her belly finally full after I rushed out at dawn to buy formula, diapers, and anything else I could carry with shaking hands, my mind refused to rest. The money sat in my account like something unreal, like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. Every few minutes, I checked my phone. The transfer was still there. $3,000. I kept waiting for the follow-up. The demand. The "by the way." That was how help usually worked. It came with strings wrapped so tightly you didn't see them until you were already tangled. But nothing came. Just one message. "Did Lily eat?" I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Yes," I wrote. "She finally slept." "Good," he replied. "That's all that matters." That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Over the next 2 days, we exchanged a handful of messages. Nothing personal. Nothing flirtatious. Just quiet check-ins that somehow felt heavier than long conversations ever did. "How's she doing? Did you get some rest? Let me know if you need anything else." I kept my replies short, careful. I didn't want to owe him more than gratitude. I didn't want to lean on something that felt too good to be solid. On the third morning, there was a knock on my door. I froze. No one ever knocked on my door unless something was wrong. Lily was in her bouncer, kicking her legs happily, completely unaware of the sudden fear gripping my chest. I walked slowly to the door and peered through the peephole. A delivery driver. I opened the door, just enough to see his uniform and the stack of boxes behind him. "Delivery for Emma Carter," he said. That was my name. "Yes," I answered, my voice barely steady. He smiled politely and began handing boxes to me one by one. Formula, diapers, baby wipes, bottles, a soft pink blanket folded neatly in plastic, even baby clothes, still tagged. My arms shook as I carried everything inside. At the bottom of the last box was a plain white envelope. No logo, no return address. Inside was a short note. "You shouldn't have to worry about this again. Alex." I sat on the floor surrounded by baby supplies and cried harder than I had in months. This wasn't charity. This was care. When Lily finished her bottle and fell asleep against my chest, I finally did the thing I'd been avoiding. I opened my browser. I typed his name, Alex Monroe. The page loaded instantly, and my world tilted. There were articles, headlines, numbers I couldn't even process. Alex Monroe, founder and CEO of Orion Dynamics. Net worth, $9.4 billion. Media-shy tech billionaire. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. "No," I whispered. I scrolled. Photos appeared, sharp suits, private jets, global conferences. He stood beside politicians and innovators, his expression always controlled, distant. Powerful. This wasn't a generous stranger. This was someone who lived in a completely different universe. My hand started trembling again, this time with fear instead of relief. Why would someone like him respond to a wrong number? Why would a billionaire care about baby formula? I opened our message thread, suddenly seeing every word differently. Because I could do something about it. My stomach churned. I typed before I could overthink it. "You didn't tell me who you were." The reply came after a longer pause than usual. I didn't think it mattered. "It matters to me," I wrote. "This changes things." There was a silence that stretched so long I thought maybe I'd crossed a line. Then, "I'm still the same person who asked if your baby ate." That made my chest ache. Why help me? I asked. You could help anyone. Another pause. Because you didn't ask for more, he replied. And because you didn't stop being a mother, even when you had nothing left. I leaned back against the couch, staring at Lily's tiny fingers curled around mine. I don't belong in your world, I typed. You don't belong in poverty either, he replied. That stopped me. I didn't respond right away. A few minutes later, another message appeared. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. If you want this to end here, say the word. I won't message again. I closed my eyes. This was the part where I should walk away, where I should protect myself from a story that felt too improbable to be safe. But something in me, something tired of always choosing fear, hesitated. I don't want money, I wrote slowly. I want stability. There was no delay this time. Then let's talk. The next message made my breath catch. Come by my office tomorrow. Just a conversation. No obligations. I laughed quietly to myself, a sound filled with disbelief and nerves. You don't just walk into a billionaire's office, I whispered. But somehow I knew I would, because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about the moment my life split into before and after. And I was standing right at the edge of it. I almost didn't go. I stood in front of the mirror with Lily balanced on my hip, staring at a woman I barely recognized. Dark circles under my eyes. Hair pulled back too tightly because I didn't have time to make it neat. A plain blouse I'd ironed twice, not because it looked impressive, but because I wanted to feel like I tried. You don't belong there, I whispered to my reflection. Lily babbled softly, gripping my collar like she was reminding me why I was doing this. I packed her diaper bag carefully, triple-checking everything like I always did. Formula, bottles, extra clothes, wipes. My entire life reduced to what I could carry on my shoulder. The building was taller than anything I'd ever walked into. Glass walls, quiet confidence, people moving with purpose, their shoes clicking against polished floors. I felt every step echo inside me, each one asking the same question. What are you doing here? The receptionist smiled politely when I gave my name. Too politely, like she already knew who I was. Mr. Monroe is expecting you, she said, standing immediately. My heart slammed against my ribs. She led me through doors that whispered shut behind us and into an office that didn't feel like a billionaire's lair. No gold, no ego, just clean lines, soft light, and a wide window overlooking the city. Alex stood when I walked in. He looked normal. That startled me more than anything else. No entourage, no phone glued to his hand. Just a tall man in a simple suit, his expression calm but attentive. His eyes flicked briefly to Lily, then back to me. You came, he said. I nodded, suddenly aware of how small my voice felt. You said it was just a conversation. It is, he replied. Please, sit. I lowered myself into the chair across from him, adjusting Lily so she was comfortable. She stared at him with wide curiosity, completely unimpressed by his net worth. Alex smiled faintly. She's beautiful. Thank you, I said, instinctively protective. I don't usually bring her to places like this. I don't usually invite babies to boardroom floors, he said. But I think we'll survive. That loosened something in my chest. There was a pause. Not awkward, just intentional. I want to be clear, I said finally. I didn't come here for money. I know, he said without hesitation. That's why I asked you here. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the desk. You didn't ask for help. You asked for formula. There's a difference. I swallowed. I read your message again after we talked, he continued. The one where you apologize for asking. People who expect handouts don't apologize. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling again. I can't owe you, I said quietly. I won't. I don't want you to, he replied. He reached into a folder on his desk and slid a single sheet of paper toward me. I want to offer you a job. I stared at it. A job. I repeated. Yes, he said. Remote. Flexible hours. Project coordination for one of my smaller divisions. The pay is fair. The benefits are real. My chest tightened. You don't even know my resume. I know you managed a household on almost nothing, he said gently. I know you kept a baby alive while being exhausted and scared. And I know you communicated, clearly under pressure. Those aren't small skills. Tears burned behind my eyes. I haven't worked since Lily was born, I admitted. Daycare costs more than rent. I don't have family support. I know, he said. That's why it's remote, and why there's an on-site childcare option if you ever want to come in. I shook my head slowly, overwhelmed. This feels like charity dressed up as opportunity. He met my gaze steadily. Then don't take it unless you can look me in the eye and say you'll earn it. Silence filled the room. Lily yawned, curling into my chest, her tiny fingers clutching my blouse. I thought of the nights counting dollars, the mornings pretending I wasn't terrified, the way dignity felt like something I'd misplaced along the way. I can work, I said. I'll work hard. I expect nothing less, he replied. I took a breath, then another. Okay, I said. Alex smiled, not triumphantly, not smugly, just respectfully. Welcome aboard, Emma. As I stood to leave, he added, one more thing. I turned back. This doesn't make us even, he said. This makes us partners. If it ever feels unbalanced, you tell me. I nodded, too emotional to speak. Outside, the city felt different. Not kinder, not easier, but possible. As I buckled Lily into her car seat, I realized something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. This wasn't rescue. This was the beginning of a life I'd have to grow into. And I wasn't sure who would change more, me, or the billionaire who'd opened a door he never meant to close. The job changed everything. And somehow it didn't. On paper, my life looked stable for the first time in years. A steady paycheck, health insurance, a schedule that bent instead of broke when Lily needed me. I worked from the small desk wedged between my couch and the window, her playmat spread out beside me like a reminder of why I couldn't afford to fail. I learned fast, faster than I thought I could. Project timelines, vendor calls, emails that needed precision, not apology. At night, when Lily slept, I reread instructions and double-checked my work, terrified of making a mistake that would prove I didn't belong there. Alex never hovered. That was the strangest part. No surprise check-ins. No reminders of what he'd done for me. When he emailed, it was about work. When we spoke, it was professional, respectful. That made the pressure worse. Because now, failure wouldn't just cost me a job. It would confirm every fear I'd ever had about being helped. The first crack appeared during a video meeting. I presented a revised timeline for a vendor transition, one I'd worked on for days. I was halfway through explaining my reasoning when someone interrupted me. That's unrealistic, a man said flatly. We've never done it that way. I froze. My heart raced, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. It accounts for the overlap period you mentioned last week. It actually reduces downtime. There was a pause, then quiet laughter. Who approved this? Someone else asked. I did, Alex said calmly. The room went silent. I swallowed. Alex didn't elaborate. He didn't defend me with a speech. He just moved the meeting forward. But when the call ended, my hands were shaking. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen, my old doubts creeping back in. They think you're here because of him, the voice in my head whispered. Not because you deserve it. That night, Lily wouldn't sleep. She cried the way babies do when something small feels like the end of the world. I rocked her back and forth, pacing the room, exhaustion pressing down on me. I'm trying, I whispered to her. I really am. My phone buzzed. Alex, rough meeting. I stared at the message for a long time. I don't want special treatment, I typed. I want to earn my place. The reply came slowly. Then stop assuming you haven't. That didn't comfort me the way he probably intended. The tension grew quietly after that. Not with Alex, but with everyone else. I noticed the looks during meetings. The way conversations paused when I joined. The way my ideas were questioned twice as hard as anyone else's. No one said it out loud, but the assumption hung heavy in the air. She's here because she's the charity case. One afternoon, I received an email that made my stomach drop. A formal complaint. It wasn't about my work. It was about conflict of interest. Someone had questioned the appropriateness of my hiring. I sat frozen at my desk, Lily napping beside me, the weight of the words pressing into my chest. I could walk away. I could quit quietly, preserve my dignity, tell myself it was safer not to push. But then I looked at Lily. at the tiny crease between her brows that appeared when she slept too deeply, and something inside me hardened. I requested a meeting with HR and Alex. The room felt different this time, less warm, more official. The HR director folded her hands. We need to address concerns about fairness and transparency. I agree, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded, which is why I want this reviewed properly. Alex looked at me, not questioning, not warning, just listening. I want my performance evaluated against the same metrics as everyone else, I continued. If I'm not meeting expectations, I'll accept that. But I won't be reduced to a favor. Silence followed. The HR director nodded slowly. That's reasonable. Alex finally spoke. I won't interfere. That was both terrifying and freeing. The review process was brutal. Every deadline, every metric, every outcome laid bare. I worked like my life depended on it, because it did. When the results came back, I couldn't breathe. Exceeds expectations. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. The HR director smiled. Your work speaks for itself. After the meeting, Alex stopped me in the hallway. You didn't have to fight that hard, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. I did. He studied me for a moment, something unreadable in his expression. You're not what I expected, he admitted. I smiled faintly. Neither are you. That night, as I tucked Lily into her crib, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't about gratitude anymore. It was about respect. And once earned, it changed the balance between us in ways I wasn't prepared for. Because the moment someone stops seeing you as fragile, they start seeing you as dangerous. The quiet after the storm felt unfamiliar. For so long, my life had been survival, reacting, adjusting, bracing for the next hit. But now days passed without panic. Mornings weren't rushed calculations anymore. I woke up knowing Lily's needs were met, knowing my work mattered, knowing my place wasn't borrowed. I earned it. That knowledge settled into me slowly, like learning to trust solid ground after years of sinking sand. Work changed after the review. Meetings shifted. My ideas weren't interrupted as often. People asked questions instead of dismissing suggestions. Respect didn't arrive with an apology, it arrived with acknowledgement. And that was enough. Alex and I stayed professional. Mostly. But something subtle had shifted between us too. Not tension. Not romance. Something quieter. Mutual recognition. One evening, after a long day of deadlines and teething cries, I received a message. Do you have time to talk? I looked at Lily, finally asleep, her tiny chest rising steadily. Yes, I replied. We spoke on the phone for the first time. His voice was calm, thoughtful, nothing like the larger-than-life image the world projected onto him. We didn't talk about money or work. We talked about exhaustion, about responsibility, about the weight of choices no one sees. I didn't help you because I'm generous, he said at one point. I helped because I saw myself in the panic behind your words. That surprised me. I thought billionaires didn't panic, I said lightly. He laughed softly. We just panic privately. There was honesty there. Not savior energy. Not superiority. Just two adults acknowledging how close life can push you to the edge. Weeks passed. Then months. I moved into a better apartment. Nothing extravagant, just safe and warm. Lily learned to sit up on her own, then crawl, then pull herself up with fierce determination. Every milestone felt like proof that stability wasn't a luxury, it was a foundation. One afternoon, Alex asked me to join him for lunch. Not a board meeting. Not a pitch. Lunch. I hesitated before agreeing. We sat in a quiet cafe, not the kind that screamed wealth. He ordered simply. So did I. No cameras. No attention. You've changed the culture more than you realize, he said suddenly. I frowned. I just did my job. You did it visibly, he replied. People noticed. He explained that policies were shifting, expanded remote roles, better parental support, performance-based hiring reforms. Not because of me alone, but because my presence had made gaps impossible to ignore. You didn't ask to be a symbol, he said, but you became one. I absorbed that slowly. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, I sat by the window and thought about the night I'd sent that message. The wrong number, the desperation, The fear of asking. If I'd known it belonged to a billionaire, I never would have sent it. And that realization made me smile. Because the point was never who he was. It was who I was when everything was stripped away. I didn't become strong because someone rescued me. I was strong before someone just finally noticed. Months later, I returned the favor in my own way. A young woman joined our team. Brilliant, overwhelmed, juggling childcare and deadlines. I recognized the tightness in her voice during meetings. The way she apologized before speaking. I sent her a message. Your work is good. You don't need permission to exist here. She replied with a thank you that felt heavier than words. That's when I understood what Alex had done for me wasn't about money. It was about interrupting a fall. As for us, me and him, there was no dramatic confession. No fairy tale ending wrapped in romance and headlines. Just trust. Just respect. Just two people who met at the wrong number and chose to do the right thing afterward. Sometimes, late at night, I watch Lily sleep and think about how close we were to breaking. And how a simple message, sent in fear, received with humanity, rewrote our story. I didn't marry a billionaire. I didn't become rich overnight. But I gained something far more powerful. A life where my child is safe. A career I earned. And the quiet confidence of knowing that even at my weakest, I was never small. I was just unseen. Until I wasn't.